Welcome to the second day of the PogChamps quarterfinal. Today we are focusing on the matchup between Rainn Wilson and Moist Critical. Moist coming off of that tough Armageddon loss to Ludwig. He has to play against Rainn Wilson, and the winner of this matchup will go and take on Benji Fishy in the semifinal for a spot in the final match. We begin the first game with Rainn with the white pieces. He plays e4. Charlie responds with the Sicilian defense. Knight to f3, knight to c6. And now in this position, white can play d4, which would go to an open Sicilian, or you have the Rainn Wilson specialty, b3. And actually, you can play b3 as early as move 2. And b3 is very useful because you can be the first person to the bishop on this diagonal. And to an unprepared opponent, especially an opponent like Charlie, Charlie plays the dragon with black, which involves g6, bishop g7. So when somebody plays b3 and b2 to this diagonal, it's absolutely terrifying. Now, I feel mildly responsible for this because here's my logic. I did a couple of lessons with Charlie, right? But Charlie works primarily with Daniel Naroditsky. But Rainn Wilson played this against Michel Carré. So the ability to prepare for that was there. I actually haven't spoken to Charlie because he's very busy with streams and his other YouTube videos. I was going to, but I didn't really want to burst in, because I figured that he was already talking with Daniel all the time. But this could have been avoidable. Because here, and maybe they did some prep, by the way. I actually don't know. Maybe they did some prep and then, Charlie kind of froze up during game time. I actually don't know. Maybe you guys can tell me. But Charlie plays the move knight f6, which counterattacks the pawn. The problem with this is white plays e5. And now black has to know that you don't go back. You can just put your knight into the center and then just build up the structure. Charlie goes back, and now he's already in a worse position. And the thing is, psychologically, when you're rattled in the opening, you guys know this, you get rattled, you're like, oh my god, it's the opening, calm down, the game is not lost in 4 moves unless you get scholars mated, right? So Charlie plays d6, which is a good move. Rainn plays d4, and Charlie's like, at this point, he's like, oh my god, I'm under pressure. Calm down. The chessboard doesn't care how you feel. The best moves are going to be the best moves. So Charlie needed to see c takes d4. Very simple move. And then when Rainn takes back, take the e-pawn. And Charlie's just the pawn up. Rainn beats him in the first few moves, but Charlie just wins a pawn. And Charlie himself was so rattled. He played queen a5 check, and he played queen a5 check and literally said, I know it's bad. And played it anyway. What? But then Rainn didn't even play the best move. Rainn's supposed to go here hitting the queen to continue his attack. But he goes here. Now we get take. Again, Charlie should have taken with the knight. He should have he should have played queen check. He takes like this, and now we get this. So at this point, Rainn is down a pawn. But how does Rainn develop here? You say bishop c4 and castles. I say you're not wrong. But how does Rainn create a threat? Queen to f3 plays the best move. Only move in the position to give white any sort of advantage. Going for this, maybe long castles. Charlie plays bishop to b7. Rainn castles queenside. Rainn castles long, activating this. So Rainn is much better here, but Charlie plays the move e6. Rainn finishes his development with the move bishop to c4. Now at this point, Charlie needs to get his knight out. Knights come before bishops. Ladies and gentlemen, this is why the knight move is less flexible. You know for a fact your knight needs to go here. You don't know where you're going to put the bishop yet. When Charlie commits bishop to a3, at this point, white just ignores it and finishes developing everything. Now black has to play knight f6. Charlie doesn't play knight f6. Just go knight f6. He needs to finish his development. But he's psychologically still rattled from the opening. Like when you go rook b8, lining up your rook to attack white's king, you have got to think, how can white attack me? Right? How can white attack me? There is a move here that attacks both pawns. And Rainn Wilson just needs one chance. That's what the stronger players do differently than some of the players 100, 200 points lower. They punish. He spots the queen move. Checks, captures, and attacks. Another good idea, knight to e4 to get into d6. Lights out. Black's king is stuck in the middle. Psychologically, he had to recover and pull himself in, smack himself on the face a couple times. Metaphorically or literally. Not too hard, though. You don't want to cause a concussion. Can you imagine a self-imposed concussion from punching yourself? Jesus. So, Chess Jesus had to finish his development. Literally one move. He would have played knight f6 and castled. He would have been okay. Because the thing is, if he sacks the center pawn and just moves his queen out of danger, it's still a game. Yes, white is better because white has more activity. Charlie's bishop is not very active. But he never got out of the middle. And Rainn takes on e5. Charlie goes rook back to c7. Queen back to c7. And here, this is why you always look for checks. Rainn's not perfect. He's good, but he's not perfect. Look for checks. Rook e6. Discovered attack on the queen. That's why you always look for checks for your opponent. You go queen c7, you go, can he check me? Oh, God. Yeah, I'm not going to do that. You're still in a lot of trouble, but, you know, at least go queen b6 or something. Now, still rook e6 because of this. But that's the danger. I mean, this position is the problem with getting your king stuck in the center of the board. But Rainn went back. Rainn went back. And Charlie was so focused on castling at this point that he hung his queen anyway. And that's unfortunately somehow how it works. You see, it was a downward spiral from Charlie ever since the beginning. So many times, if you guys watch the live commentary of PogChamps, you will hear these lower rated players, and it's always the lower rated player in the matchup saying, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know this. I don't know that. The board does not care how you feel. You need to instill confidence in yourself. You need to be thinking, what is the best move given the situation? Not, oh my God, I had to move my knight back to g8. So what? 2 moves later, there's no advantage for white anymore. But when you're playing the 5th move mistake that you made by move 15, you never recover. So more than anything else in this game, Charlie has to just, and all of you, this is a lesson for all of you, just because you get surprised in the opening, stay committed. Try to avoid making random backwards knight moves, okay? Like, try not to go back to the beginning. It's okay to go here. It's okay to rotate, but try to stay active. And later, d6 is good. d6 is a great move. Abandon the initial plan of the opening. Abandon this plan because white can, you know, get it up in your face and all this. Don't just play the opening the way you think it's supposed to be played. The position's different. You've been surprised already. Adapt, right? And Charlie does adapt. To his credit, he attacks the center. He doesn't go back to playing the way the dragon is supposed to be played. The best move here is d5. Just take the center. Just take the center. Then bishop f5. But e6. Just take the center. But Rainn Wilson, once he wins the queen, he doesn't really need to look back, right? He just picks up the rest of the pieces. And sometime later, Charlie resigned. So we go to the second game. And now Charlie's preparation pays off because he knows that e4, Rainn Wilson goes for this setup with black. So Charlie and the Prophet prepared bishop c4, queen to e2. A very tricky setup against the Peertz King's Indian. There's a couple of ways I like to play this. I like bishop e3, queen d2, and long castle. Battery with the queen and the bishop, and then go trade this off if it's possible. But these guys go for an early e5 push. Now this really confuses people because takes, and now the knight comes out to g4, but this is a trap, and Charlie plays e6. What e6 does is it disconnects the bishop there, kills the circulation. So if you take this, the knight's going to be lost. You actually have to move the knight and allow me to take with check, and that's not the easiest thing to do. And Rainn blunders. He blunders. Bishop takes bishop. If pawn takes, he's going to lose his knight. So Rainn now goes, oh, damn. All right. I'm down a bishop in the opening. Let me try to stabilize. Let me play c5. Charlie plays bishop to f4. Okay? Knight to c6. Rook to d1. Good. Centralizing. But queen a5. Now Charlie spent a long time here, and he went back to d2. Not a bad move, but Rainn stabilizing with e6. Knight f3, a6. He's waiting. Charlie castles. Now, we get b5. So Rainn sees the opportunity there on the queen side to trap the bishop. Charlie finds literally the top engine move, which is knight to a4, hitting the bishop. The bishop hits the queen and hitting this pawn. Rainn has to go b4 like this. Okay, so here's a lesson. What do you do in a position where you have an overwhelming material advantage? You can simplify if it's possible, and in this case it's not really possible, or go for more material gain. Something like queen to c4. Try to win the c5 pawn. Charlie does that. He plays bishop to e3. Rainn Wilson plays knight to e5. Bishop c5 is a great move. Rook to c8 attacks the bishop. But now knight e5. Rook c5 from Rainn Wilson. Take. And the material count is that Charlie is just simply up a rook, but the material count is +5. The computer count is +20. Why is it +20? Well, this is an example of a game where you don't need to simplify. Like, you don't need to play the move knight to d7, for example. And by the way, I'm saying that because Charlie did that to try to trade the knights, right? He doesn't need to do that. Go for the kill. Go for the kill. Charlie still wasn't trusting himself. He was really taking a long time. Kind of got a little deer in the headlights. For example, how does white create a threat here? Rook, pawn, queen f3. Or, if you want to be even fancier, bam. And then queen e6 with the bishop. Queen f3, f7, and a8 in the corner. There's so much possibility, but Charlie freezes up and blunders a knight. He's still completely winning, but blundering a full knight when you are up a rook, and now black is going to stabilize. Bad news. You got to bring in the rook and trade the queen. Got to find a way in with the rook if possible. Queen to c4 right now, maybe. Plays rook to d8. And Rainn Wilson doesn't take the rook. Rainn Wilson doesn't take the rook. Like, this game was all over the place. Like, both dudes blundering at moments. Like, Charlie was thinking about, you know, putting rook on d8, didn't, and then did it the wrong way. I was like, Rainn Wilson probably did not expect that present. Now, Charlie was like, oh my god, I gotta get out. So we're just gonna forget that part happened. But, you know, for the 1100s watching, you know this is a thing. You guys do beautiful things and then explode something, and then you go back to doing beautiful things. That's how you get better at chess. Knight to d7. Okay, f4, not a bad move. Queen to b5 pins the rook to the queen. Charlie plays a4. Rainn plays queen f5. Wait a minute, queen f5? Excuse me? Queen f5? That's a rook down. That's a rook down. Now bishop takes b2. Now this position is why you always look for checks and captures and then attacks. This doesn't work and this doesn't work. But this is not guarded because it's pinned. And Charlie can play queen e6 or bishop e6. Charlie's got it in the palm of his hands. Palm of his hands. But, again, the nerves. And Charlie plays g4, which is not a bad move. But queen c5 check. King to h1. Uh-oh. And Rainn spots the double attack. Except, it's not a double attack, seriously. How do you do this? Process of elimination. If you move your king, you're going to lose your rook. If you block, you're going to lose your rook. If you block, you're going to lose your rook. But what if you block with the queen? On the other side is the rook. But tragedy strikes and Charlie plays rook d5. And now, he just thought he was losing a rook. So he's like, I'm going to go rook d5. And even here, Charlie like gathered it within himself to just, the second Rainn slipped up, he goes back. Now, at this point, both players have about a minute. Okay? Rainn Wilson doing some serious prayer here to the chess gods. Rook to f8. Charlie, again, clutch. f5. Rainn plays a5. Charlie takes, and rook takes f7. Check. This is so dangerous for Rainn. Rook f7, queen f7. You got two moves. Which one do you do? Don't go to the corner. Sometimes you go to the corner, but now you would get mated. Rainn goes out to h6. At this point, everything white does needs to have a check because black is a move away. You're not going to go queen f3 now, but I'm just saying in the future, if it becomes available, black is a move away from checkmating you. Charlie wants to go g5, so he goes here. That hangs mate in 1. But in the mutual time trouble, Rainn Wilson plays queen e1. Charlie goes up to g2. And now we get a lot of checks. And Rainn keeps checking him because he understands he can't lose. But a draw is okay. Charlie brings back the queen. Charlie's best chance here was probably to just keep running the king. But he trades the queen, and now we have what's called an opposite colored bishop endgame. If material is even, or even if a side is up a pawn or two in an opposite colored bishop endgame, it's probably going to be a draw. What ends up happening is that pawn gets lost, but there's really no way to make progress. Rainn goes g4, you take it, and now the sides have kind of a fortress, like a mutual fortress. Even with Rainn marching his king all the way into Charlie's territory, here king b5 is possible. And now taking this pawn looks good, but b3 would come with a check. And the players shuffled around a little bit longer. Even with that loss of a pawn, it's still a draw. And they agree to a draw on move 65. And Rainn Wilson defeats Charlie. What you can learn, now let me just say that Rainn Wilson obviously moves on. Rainn Wilson now will take on Benji Fishy for a spot in the finals. The other bracket, on the other side of the bracket, we're awaiting the winner of Ludwig versus Logic, which at the time of recording this video will happen in about 2 hours, and I will be doing live commentary. But if you're watching this in the future, that already happened. And then we will see who places in the semifinals. Now, if you're Rainn, what you do here from a situation like this is you add to your opening expertise. Clearly with white, he did well. He got a good position quickly. How do you continue that opening initiative? With black, I mean, just improve your modern a little bit. Don't get caught with that again. Learn that variation. If you're Charlie, it seems more psychological than anything else, because actually Charlie had very decent positions within both games within the first 10 moves. So for Charlie, it's about setting yourself little mental time barriers. Okay, I'm not going to spend more time than this or this in this kind of a position. Or I am going to look to try to keep a 1 minute barrier with my opponent. Or I'm going to trust my first instinct. That's what Charlie's got to do. And that is how you improve game by game. And train your killer instinct. So practice winning one positions. Against a friend, against the training partner. Go back and analyze games where you were winning that you didn't win. Something like that. But for now, the prayers to Chess Jesus paid off. Rainn Wilson has been freed from his chess sins, and he will move on in the semifinals to face Benji Fishy. I'll catch you in that recap.